Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to welcome you to the 2010 Volunteer Indiana 4-H Toolkit for Success program this evening. This year, our lesson plans are focused on the generosity concept of the essential elements for 4-H youth development. And we're very excited to have each and every one of you with us this evening, both volunteers and staff members who have decided to join us and have been able to. We know that there's one of the things we'll ask you to do early on is to mute your microphone, please, so that we will not have too much feedback or echoing. That will help us a lot this evening. But we do want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. We know there's lots of weather issues once again. We're a perfect 7 for 7 on our Volunteer Indiana programs over the last 3+ years, and with some weather issues of some type. So we're kind of used to this as we go. But the Volunteer Indiana program is the 4th year of a 4-year program. And we are looking at, the first year was the belonging concept, where we talked about how members can feel more welcome in their 4-H clubs. In 2008, we talked about the mastery concept, helping individuals to learn information that they need to know for to be better individuals and better citizens. Last year in 2009, we looked at independence and ways that members can make better independent decisions on their own, possibly also working in partnership with our adults. And this year again is generosity, so we're looking forward to sharing some information about ways that we can all learn to be a more generous people. My name is Steve McKinley. I'm coming to you this evening from Purdue's campus. My position here is Extension Specialist, working with leadership and volunteerism for both youth and adult audiences. And a couple of thanks that I need to give first thing this evening is, first of all, to our Volunteer Development Committee, a group of about 12 or 13 extension educators around the state of Indiana representing each of our extension areas. And they've done a lot of work this past year to put together lesson plans to be sure that we have information that's out there that our volunteers can use and hopefully really help the 4-H clubs to continue to grow and prosper into the future. Also, I'd like to thank the counties that have decided to join us this evening, who were able to enroll and to invite you as volunteers to attend. I want to thank them for the extra work that they put in to prepare all the lesson plans and the handouts that they're going to have for you, so that our program this evening can go very smoothly. Just so that you're not expecting to see a picture, this is going to be a PowerPoint only presentation from your end. The best way that we can share this information with you is to be able to do that and not have our faces showing. So we apologize for that, but you can see what's going on as you look at the PowerPoint this evening. We'd like to give a special thanks to IHETS for their assistance in preparing our program this evening from the technology side of things to make sure that things are running as smoothly as possible. And we would encourage you to, if you have any problems with your technology during the program, please give that 800 number a call. There is a live body at IHETS that's ready to talk with you and to try to help get things resolved if there are any problems. We are recording tonight's program, and that will be available within the next couple of weeks on the State 4-H website. So those of you that were not able to join us, or those of you that know of people that could not join us this evening, will have a chance to take a look at that from the website. And we're also going to do a repeat performance of tonight's program on March the 2nd. Remind you again to please mute your microphone until your site is called upon. Again, that will help with some of the feedback issues that we have as we go through the program. There are some additional generosity resources that fit in very well with our generosity concept that we're talking about with these lesson plans. The National 4-H Mission Mandate that's starting to become more and more prevalent throughout the country is on citizenship. One of the 3 that we have, the other 2 are Healthy Living and the 4-H Science, Engineering, and Technology Initiative. But the citizenship one fits very well with the generosity lessons that we're talking about this evening. The website that you see there is for the 4-H National website, National Headquarters website, and it does have some good information that may assist you as you work with some various service opportunities in your 4-H clubs in the coming year. There's also a good 4-H toolkit available that was prepared in honor of Martin Luther King Day, and that has, again, a number of different resources that are available for you to be able to lead some various activities with your 4-H club members. And it gives some good suggestions on how club members themselves can be more actively involved in some of the activities that are actually taking place. So I'd encourage you, as you have a chance, to take a look at both of those websites to give you some additional information beyond what we're going to be able to provide you this evening through Volunteer Indiana. Would let you know that my co-chair for this evening, Kathleen Cook from Hamilton County, was unable to join us. She came down with an illness this morning and could not join us, so we apologize that she couldn't be there, but we're going to continue on in her stead. An overview of the 2010 Volunteer Indiana lesson plans. These are available through the County Extension Office, and we hope that sometime throughout the year or the next couple of years that you'll have a chance to visit with your Extension educators to find out what actually is available and to be able to utilize some of those in county trainings as well as in your 4-H clubs throughout the year. The previous 3 years of lesson plans are all posted on the state 4-H website and are available there to be utilized as needed. The 5 lesson plans for this year are listed here on your screen, talking first about creating new ideas for generosity as we look at a number of different ways that we can brainstorm ideas to think of a lot of different types of service that our clubs can perform. The second lesson plan talks about planning and carrying out a service project. What are the steps that we need to follow to be sure that those service projects are carried out to the fullest extent possible? There is a lesson plan on service learning. Maybe a little bit of a different concept for some of us because it's not as widely known, but it does have some distinct characteristics from our traditional service projects that we know about. And so we'll be able to talk about some of those characteristics a little bit later this evening. Generosity, we all have time, talents, and treasures. How can we best utilize those? What are some various ways that we can do that to show that we're generous people? And finally, deciding what to give is a wonderful activity that we're actually going to lead off the program with this evening. And so I'm not going to talk any more about that, but instead turn it over to our educator, 4-H educator from Jackson County, Pam Hess. Pam and Lori Bauslog from Sullivan County helped to put together this lesson plan for us this evening. So Pam, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Steve. I want to thank everybody for coming out on this cold night. I'm in southern Indiana, and it's very, very cold here, too. As we all know, deciding what to give involves generosity, as this whole lesson plan does. And we all know that where would 4-H be without the generous folks that are our volunteers that help us run the program. We've also benefited not only from our volunteers, but also from our donors who've supported our programs monetarily. And we've had also folks who've helped teach our youth skills, and they're also giving to our program. Now, this lesson is an activity that will help teach young people to decide where and why to focus their philanthropic giving. They're going to learn how to be generous. Although most of them are already generous, this is going to give them some practice in actually being generous. We borrowed some of the ideas from this program from Youth as Philanthropists, which is a notebook that I happen to find here in my office, and we've changed it a little bit, but we want to give them credit for what we've done here. The objectives of the program, as you can see in front of you, we're going to help you tonight, and then hopefully you'll use this with your own groups. Identify a cause that you care about, and you're going to convince others to contribute to your cause. And at the same time, you're going to determine how to best use your own personal resources to help you support other causes. So you're going to be asking and giving at the same time. Okay. First of all, I want you to think a moment about what's your favorite cause. It might be something that you've had a personal experience with. It might be something that somebody in your family has had an experience with. It might be something that it is something negative in your life that you want to turn positive, or it might be something that comes from your youth that was something positive for you. We want you to imagine of $100 of your own to contribute, and at the same time, we want you to be thinking about what your own project is that you're asking people to contribute to. If you'll pass out the handout sheets that we have there that say deciding what to give at the top, I believe that's what it said. Everybody needs one. And if you are in a very small group, you might want to give each person a couple and have them pretend like that they are 2 people. So they'll have $100 for each one of their projects. They'll have $200 to give since they're 2 people, and they'll have 2 projects that they're collecting for. I'm going to give you about, I think I've got 15 minutes for this whole thing. So we're going to give you about 5 minutes to do this project. And as you can see, the top part of your page is where you're going to keep track of how much you've given away. Each time you give money to somebody, you'll subtract that from your total 100. And at the end of about 5 minutes, you should have 0 left. As you receive a donation from someone, you're going to record that in the bottom half of your sheet and add that up as you go. When we finish, we're going to figure out who's done the best job of telling their story and collecting their money. So now if you'd like to start the activity, we'll give you about 5 minutes. I think our 5 minutes is about up, so if everybody wants to gather around again. Those of you that are in smaller groups probably had a more difficult time with this activity. It's really intended to use with a larger group, probably 10 to 15 children or adults, to make it worth your while. But tonight, we're just doing a sample of each lesson here, and this has really been pared down to not much time either, so I hope you've gotten a good idea about what this activity does. After you've gone through this part with giving away and collecting money, then you need to gather everybody around and ask some questions and discuss your feelings and how things went for you while you practiced asking and giving money. So I guess, Steve, I'll ask some questions, and maybe you can call on some people to answer them in their groups. One of the questions that you might ask your group when you do it is, what was it like to try to convince others to support your cause? What was it like?
Okay, let's start off with the Ivy Tech group. If they could give us a response to Pam's question, what was it like to try to convince others to support your cause?
Okay, I think it's embarrassing to have to ask for money, but it's a good cause, so I did breast cancer, so.
Okay, very good. How about this question? Is there anything you should have done differently?
For that question, let's go down to Switzerland County. Ginger and your group down there, if you have an answer to, is there anything that you would have done differently as you tried to collect some money?
One of the things one of our leaders did was, unless the people asked for a donation, she gave them $5. But if somebody asked her for 25, then she would give that much. So don't set a low limit. Know what you're going for.
Okay, very good. Now let's think about giving from a standpoint of giving. And here's a question for that. How difficult was it for you to give away your charitable dollars? Did you want to hold on to them, or was it easy to give them away?
Okay, Pam, for that question, let's try to go to Tipton County. Brian, I think you had a couple of volunteers there. How difficult was it for them to give away their charitable dollars?
Actually, it's just me and one other volunteer, but we did brainstorm 5 different charities or causes that we like to give to, and we just evenly distributed them. So we didn't quite have the group for the discussion. Sorry.
That's okay. You were very generous then if you gave away all your money. One more question. What criteria did you use to decide whether to give a donation or not?
Okay, and for the answer for that one, let's go to Allen County. Barb, in your group, could you tell us what criteria you used to decide whether to give a donation or not?
We actually didn't get that far. Sorry.
Well, what criteria would you use?
We would certainly want to contribute to organizations that were well known and well established, so that we knew that our dollars were going to be properly used.
Very good. We've seen a lot of that in the paper now with all the troubles in Haiti. I hope you enjoyed this activity, and I hope that this is something that you'll plan to use either with other adult volunteers in your county or youth. It can be used for kids of all ages, because all kids need to learn generosity. At this time, I'm going to turn the program over to Phyllis Harris, who's going to talk about generosity in general and in generosity activity.
Good evening. This is Phyllis in Marion County. We're going to look at 3 different definitions of generosity. And primarily, generosity is a willingness to give, a willingness to share. And that sharing can be of your time, it can be financial, or it can be an act that you do maybe once a year. When you do something out of generosity, that means you don't expect anything in return, and you're doing it because you really want to help someone. There are benefits to volunteering, and it's been found in the research that people that volunteer on a regular basis are usually healthier and happier, have more friends, and report having less illness. And again, I guess people who don't have the finances to donate have other opportunities of giving. And so one of the things we're going to do in our activity is identify what our talents are and how we can build on those talents and use them as treasures to give to other people who are less fortunate than we are. Each person should have 2 sheets of newsprint, and on the top of one, write talents, and on the top of the other, would you write treasures? And also, in your handout, there should be some journal pages. They say talents and treasures. You can save those for later if you like, or you can write on them right now. But I want you to answer some of these questions. What am I good at? What I enjoy doing? What my friends and family say about me? What are some of the volunteer positions that match my talents? And what do I want in my future? Because things that you are doing now with your volunteer work can also lead to career choices when you have enough information. So let's take about 5 minutes and let's assess what our talents are and decide how we can use those as treasures. And we'll get back with you. Has everyone had time to do their talents and treasures? Hello?
I'd say go ahead, Phyllis.
Okay. Has everyone had an opportunity to discuss their talents and their treasures?
Yes, we did.
Does anyone want to share? Steve, would you like to call on someone to share?
Sure, I'll call on the group that just said, yes, we did. Who was that?
We had several people who like cooking, and they talked about making a meal and taking it to somebody else. And then also, same sort of skills of organizing. You could work with a food kitchen, a food pantry, or a soup kitchen, and or do those sorts of things at another location.
Thank you.
How about
Anyone
Sherry in your
else?
group down in Dearborn County? Could you share some things with us about some of your talents and treasures, Dearborn County?
All right. They would love to share some of their talents with you.
We have like organizing, planning big meals, a good people person. What else? What else talents?
I have very little on my list. I have very little on my list. I have things that I enjoy doing. I enjoy reading and I enjoy eating, which fits in with the cooking category. But,
Well, reading, you
it's
can
hard
read
for
out
me to
loud to
think of
people.
I just, I don't know. I don't know what I'm good at. I'm not really sure.
But I mean, with the cooking, you could plan big meals and you can do fundraisers also to earn money to do your generosity stuff.
And if you enjoy reading, there's always people in hospitals that would like to have you come and read to them. Anyone else?
Let's see, Nisa, did somebody join you up in Steuben County?
Yes, we have a couple people here that are going to share.
Well, we're kind of good at golfing up here, so we thought maybe we might organize a golf outing.
Yeah.
I like to encourage new 4-Hers, help them get their projects started.
Encourage them. All right. Well, thank you. I will turn this over to Service Learning now.
Okay, welcome Lana and Alice. We thank you for being with us this evening.
Well, thank you for having us, and we have a nice little group here that I'm proud to say. We're going to start talking here about service learning and how it enriches all 4-H members' lives and how it's different from community service. So I hope everybody will leave here knowing that difference. Our objectives are to differentiate between service learning and community service and follow the steps to implement a service learning project. Up on the screen, you can see how service learning is we're going to show how service learning is different from just being a volunteer. Or doing community service, such as when it's court-ordered or it's a probation sentence, is what community service is. Youth service, when people talk about that, it's just an overall term for using youth as resources, and of course experiential education, where they learn by doing, which is what we're all about. Okay, service learning has some very specific characteristics, and it is a method for individuals to learn and develop through actual participation. We want to organize it to meet your specific community needs. Service learning promotes civic responsibility in kids as they look at the community needs and see that they can make a difference. It builds we want to build on the educational component of the program, encourage participants to reflect on the service, because just going out and doing it and not coming back and really talking about it, you're missing an important part. And it helps the volunteers learn about their strengths and their interests. The types of service learning, if you think about where you are, ways you can provide direct service assistance directly to members of the community. Our junior leaders just last week served meals at our Lighthouse Mission, which is for the homeless, and they provided direct assistance. Indirect service involves a behind-the-scenes approach to providing a service. And I know we have people come into our office and fold letters and do things like that. That is a service, but it is an indirect service. And advocacy, where they seek to resolve an issue, and that's, whether it be through petitions or like advocating for a sidewalk curb cut for the disabled, that kind of thing. Okay, the elements of effective service learning, and the most important thing is we get the youth involved. It's got to be something that's meaningful to them. It can't be something as a leader that we think is important. It's got to be something that they feel will be important. They will develop problem-solving skills as they work on their project. They'll learn to apply their own skills. It will require cooperation and does include reflection. Those elements are important to enhance the experience. And the service learning can be a wonderful time for these kids to really grow as individuals.
The first thing you want to do is select a project that is meaningful to the 4-H club and meets the community needs, and then set the objectives that the group of youth want to accomplish. Not what you want to accomplish, but what they want to accomplish. Then prepare for the project, secure all of your supplies, the logistics, the scheduling of the volunteers, and you want to perform this activity when as many as possible can participate. Have a reflection time, and that is what sets service learning apart from community service. Let the 4-H members discuss and share their experiences during reflection time. What did they learn? How did they feel? And then evaluate the value of the project and identify the next steps they need to take. Are they through with it, or is there something else they can do to make it, the project even better? And then celebrate it. Have some pictures, have refreshments, get together, celebrate their accomplishments, and pat them on the back for doing a good job. Reflection is what distinguishes service learning from community service and other service projects. And that's one of the critical steps of the service learning opportunity, is encouraging the members and the participants to reflect upon their experience by answering questions like these, like what did the volunteers learn? What did their project matter? What will they do now? It will help them be able to better understand what they learned from the experience and what may happen as a result of their experience. So what we would like you to do now is to share in your group some ideas for community service projects that your clubs could be interested in, or that are projects that need to be addressed in your community, and talk about them, and then we'll come back and talk about the benefits of community service. Steve, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We'd like for them to share maybe some of their ideas of what they thought for community service projects with everyone. Just pick a couple counties as you're going down that list
Okay.
randomly.
So you're looking for some reflection ideas on the service learning project, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's see who I can pick on next. Randy, I'm not sure if anybody got to join you in Vanderburgh County, but if they did, would somebody down there like to share some ideas that they could, about reflecting?
Yes, Steve, we had some people come and they're going to respond at this point.
Well, we came up with a number of different ideas that have been tried in our community with young people, ranging from assorting and packaging food at the food pantry to serving meals at one of our shelters or one of our local missions. And we ended up gravitating to the discussion on how we reflect on those programs. And to be quite honest, we're not really good at reflecting on something after our kids have participated in them. I don't doubt that we don't doubt that it's important, but we really haven't been very good at sitting down and reflecting afterwards with our groups.
Okay, Dan and group, thank you very much for sharing with that. Amanda, did you have some folks join you at the Southwest District?
No, it's just me, unfortunately.
Well, that's okay. Is there anything you'd like to share while we've got you?
No, not really.
Okay. Not a problem at all. Thank you. Let's go back to the Ivy Tech group. It looks like you're having a pretty good discussion there. If you'd like to do some sharing.
Someone wants to share?
I talked last time. Go ahead, Karen. Well, we talked about picking up trash along the road, and if we would use that as an example, and we could maybe at the fairgrounds or at a confined area, first show the kids an example of what a trashy area looks like, and then clean it all up and take it and let the kids look at it afterwards and how they felt about it. See how they realized and reflected on the fact that when they throw something out the window or they let something roll out of their car when they get out of it, what the trash looks like. We have a trash problem in our county because we have a large dump that's open to interstate trash. And so a lot of projects are done in this county picking up along those roads. And we think that would show the kids a good way to actually see what they've done for the county and for the people around them. Plus learn the fact of what, spreading trash and littering does.
And
Excellent.
the other thing that came up here was like the junior leaders served meals at the Lighthouse Mission. But if you don't come back and talk about how did it make you feel, what else could we do, maybe do a little skit, the ones that went, about what went on. There were several things that came up that day that the kids didn't understand, why the parents were so adamant that small children eat that day, not realizing they were residents there, and that would be the only food they'd have till the next morning. So, getting these things out and talking about it makes it so much more meaningful.
And that's what sets service learning apart from community service, is how does it make you feel? What did you learn from it? Some of the other benefits, if you want to flip the slide, Steve, of service learning, a good service learning experience benefits everyone involved. It will build a youth's self-esteem and give them a sense of empowerment and a feeling of civic responsibility, which for a lot of kids is lacking, I think, today in society. A lot of kids don't think about the civic responsibility that they should have. It also, life skills are critical. Life skills like critical thinking, leadership development, communication skills, and the ability to work as a team are also strengthened when you do a service learning project and come back and reflect on it.
And your at your sides, you should have two handouts for everybody. One is the service learning fact sheet, which just really sums up everything that we talked about. And the other one, Alice and I really liked, it's called Ready, Set, Serve. And it's actual service learning lessons for 4-H clubs. And we got this from the University of Tennessee. And it's all set out, everything that you need. And even if you don't use this particular one, or ones, you know, it might give you a springboard for some other things and how to organize. And then at the end, it has a service learning activity report form. And I thought that was really good to do. And then also helpful hints for completing. And it has a whole thing about reflection on there. Yes, you can do group discussions, but you could do poems, newspaper articles might get kids thinking. Some kind of videotape, bulletin boards, it goes on, art projects, murals, collages. You know, there's a lot of ways to reflect. And it gives you a lot of good ideas in this handout, so I hope everyone will take a look at it. And I think that concludes our service learning section.
So now we'd like to turn it over to creating new ideas for generosity with Brian and Kathleen.
Good evening, everybody from Tipton County. Unfortunately, as Steve said at the beginning of the program, Kathleen is not able to be with us tonight, so we miss her. But a lot of the ideas that I'll be talking about today, or the methods that I'll be talking about this evening, Kathleen has done several times at things like 4-H Congress or her own meetings and stuff. And it's something that we can all do as 4-H club leaders or extension educators, not just talking about generosity and not just talking within our 4-H clubs, but a lot of other, it's applicable in other areas of our lives. So if you could please go ahead and go to the objectives. Thank you. Brainstorming, we've all done it. We all do it all the time, whether we're with by ourselves or with other people. This project or this activity will help you guys learn how to brainstorm and some new ways to generate new ideas. One aspect of brainstorming, especially when we're with a large group, is we want to keep it non-threatening. And so one of the things we'll show is how to do this in a non-threatening manner. The idea tonight, though, is how we will talk about how we can make an impact in their communities through service, and brainstorm some different ideas that we can do that, whether it's through projects or attitudes or things, just ways that our clubs can make a difference and give back to the community. And we'll also develop community needs and develop creative solutions to those needs. So as I said, brainstorming, it's a technique to gather large quantity of ideas. We all bring gifts and things to the table when we meet in a large group and gathering. So we want to hear from everybody. No idea during a brainstorming session is a bad idea, even if something seems off the wall. Sometimes the off the wall things, it can either be broken down, or sometimes those end up making the best kind of projects. So to keep it non-threatening and to keep kids from maybe being ridiculed or oh, that is a bad idea. Some things that we'll need are flip charts, markers, index card or just small pieces of paper, something that they can write on, stickers and dots. We might have newspapers, and we had the newspapers and the list of local service organizations to help us brainstorm and think about different areas of the community or aspects in the community that might need a certain community service project. Whether there's articles in the newspaper about it or advertisements or something. And then also a list of local service organizations to help your kids see what groups need help or see what some of the other groups are doing and how they might help, or slightly alter that or make their own community service project ideas. So go ahead and take about 5 or 7 minutes, and everybody should get 1 or 2 index cards. So please pass out some index cards to the people that are in your groups. And just sit down and write some different ideas for community service, or just write a need that needs some attention and how your club might be able to address that need. Like I said, we'll go ahead and do that for about 5 minutes, I guess. And then when you're done, go ahead and turn your cards in face down or folded in half to your leader in your room, wherever you are. And then after about 5 minutes, go ahead, that leader, if they could go ahead and write those ideas down on a marker board. And after about 5 or 7 minutes, like I said, we'll go ahead and reconvene and talk about how we can take these ideas and from the brainstorming session and turn them into projects. To help keep this, I guess, a little more organized, or to help your audience members too, you might take the first 2 minutes and say, brainstorm some needs that need to be addressed in the community, and then take the next 2 or 3 minutes and maybe they can brainstorm projects that they could do to meet those needs. That might just be one idea to help the discussion or the group keep their wheels turning. Okay, hopefully you guys have been able to come up with some different ideas for community service projects or needs in your community that need to be met. Now I would like the facilitators or the leaders to take their marker board or their flip chart or whatever and just start writing down, if they've gathered cards, start writing down some of the things that they've seen, and maybe if there's a repeat, you might put a tally mark beside it. Also, I would encourage opening discussion up a little bit. If somebody sees something that you're writing down, you can maybe enhance that or throw out some new ideas. Brainstorming is pretty, it's not formal, so everybody encouraging creativity and openness and sharing of ideas. So, and again, as we tried to plan the sequence of activities for this Volunteer Indiana session, we tried to do this in a way. Now that you guys have, the first 3 or 4 lessons we've been talking about where our talents are, meeting some needs, finding some needs, hopefully that now that we've discussed this brainstorming session will tap into some of those things that we've already discussed. So go ahead and take about 2 or 3 minutes, facilitators, and start writing some of those things down on your marker board and maybe start a discussion, and I'll come back in at about 8:30. Hopefully you guys have had some more good discussion. If you look at your projector now, everybody should get 3 stickers. And go ahead and on your marker boards, maybe your sheets, maybe you've posted them around the room. Go ahead and take those stickers and prioritize the things that you would like to see done in your club. Just take a sticker and put it beside whatever it is. Maybe it's not yours. Maybe it's not your idea, but you, through the discussion or somebody thought of something that you didn't think of. I would encourage, if you think that sounds like a great idea, go ahead and put a sticker on that. And then hopefully we'll be able to see what your group feels is a high need and what they feel projects or community service ideas they feel would be doable based on the responses that they've given by the number of stickers. Okay, so hopefully everybody has had a chance to put a sticker beside some of the needs or the projects that they like. And it's from there that with your group you would go ahead and start deciding and prioritizing which projects you want to do or which needs you would like to meet. So I'm going to turn the program over to, let me find my thing, turn it over to Beth Leonard and Jane Richard, and they will tell you how to plan and carry out a community service project, perhaps based on the brainstorming ideas that you came up with.
Hi everybody, I'm Beth Linhart and I'm in Madison County, and tonight I'm joined with by Jane Richard from Delaware County, and Jane and I have worked on planning and carrying out our service projects. Something that we feel is doing this planning and carrying out and involving our youth in this is it's a great teachable moment. One is they're learning to work with other people, whether it be other youth or a youth-adult combination. Also that they are realizing the needs in their community and just that simple planning of a project. So if you want to go ahead and flip the, thank you. We have some objectives, and we want to identify those steps that we need to have this project, guidelines, because there may be a need for some fundraising. There are guidelines that we need to follow, explore different avenues as far as publicizing, and we want to limit that risk and evaluate our project. Our service projects, we've talked about how to generate those ideas for our community service projects. Now that you have we have our ideas and what our community needs, let's get started in our planning process. Some of the things that we're going to do is, like I said, mentioned earlier in our objectives, we're going to plan, talk about raising funds, publicize, control our risk, and evaluate.
Excuse me, can she talk closer to the microphone? We can barely hear her.
You bet. Hold on just a second. See if this helps. Also, when we're going to do our planning of our project, we want to do our who, what, where, and when. First we're going to need is, obviously we want to know what 4-H group is doing it, our coordinator for our project, who our organizer is, and the name or type of project that we're going to do, where are we going to do it, and the date of our project. When are we going to start and when are we going to end?
All right, now that we have the framework for our project, we need to brainstorm and list every step you can think of that you'll need to do to complete your project. After you've done that, you need to sort the steps in the order that you want them to occur. After you get that done, you need to assign an individual or a group of individuals who will be responsible for each of those tasks or steps. Then establish a timeline for each of your steps, and you might want to actually work backwards from your ending date. It's always a good idea to periodically check on your progress of the different project assignments. Handle any problems that come up as they come up, and remember to be flexible and open-minded as we work together to overcome any roadblocks.
Thank you, Steve. Next, we need to consider those supplies that our group is going to need for our project. Will these be loaned? Will we have them donated? Are we going to purchase them? And if we have to purchase them, where are the funds going to come from? Often a part of our service learning project. You will need to develop a budget and decide how to obtain those funds that you will need. If your project is going to require funding. For example, if you need to print 100 flyers, who will pay for the printing? Estimate your costs involved with the project and the amount that the club will need to pay.
Please be sure that any fundraising activities that you plan are in line with the 4-H name and emblem guidelines. And if you're not sure what those guidelines are, please ask your county 4-H Youth Development Extension educator. And actually, it would be a very good idea to have your educator approve any fundraising activities you plan before you actually get started. Certainly be sure that your fundraising activities are honest and avoid any appearance of improper management. Funds, I'm sure you all know, should not be combined with a personal bank account. They should be deposited directly into a club account or some separate account. The next thing you'll want to do, if we could have the next slide, thank you, is publicize your project. It's a very, very important step in the process. It would be extremely disappointing to plan a project and then have no one show up to support it. So some different things you might consider doing is sending letters and newsletters to community leaders and organizations. You could post articles on a club website, the county extension office website, or websites, community websites that post upcoming community events. You could also type up a press release and send it to the local newspaper, create a public service announcement to send to the radio stations, or create a one-page flyer that you could place in some strategic locations around the community. And in this lesson plan, we have included suggestions on how to create the flyers, the press releases, and the PSAs.
Next, we're going to talk about controlling risk. And while we don't want to scare anybody off in doing a service project, we do think that we need to make sure that we're in a safe environment for our kids so that what they're doing is good for them as well as those who may benefit from it. And so you definitely review those safety procedures with your youth and your project helpers. Make sure everybody knows what's going on, and if something happens, who they need to get a hold of, and to make sure that when we're doing our projects that we have adequate adult supervision. I know, for example, in our county, even when we're doing it with our junior leaders, we want to make sure that we have plenty of adults around just to kind of help make sure everybody's staying on task and that there's no risky things situations that could harm our kids. So we'll go ahead and go on to the next. Sharing the risk. We want to use consent forms and permission slips, especially sometimes if you may be going someplace that you just want to make sure that the parents know what the kids are doing and it's okay for them to be there. And depending on what you're doing, it's a good thing to carry accidental or medical insurance. Avoiding the risk is decide not to conduct the activity if it's judged too risky. But like I said, going back to the permission, you may need it to get to proceed. But here's some of the people you may need to get that permission from. Our County 4-H Youth Development Extension Educator, a club leader, parents, neighbors or community organizations, owners of the facilities that you want to use, or anyone else in that realm.
All right, can we have the next slide, please, Steve? Yes. The final step in your project, of course, is to evaluate your project. And as Lana and Alice pointed out earlier, this is important to help your youth reflect on the project. Asking questions like, what did you learn? What did you accomplish? And was that what you set out to accomplish? What sort of feelings were involved during the project? What were the successes? How would you improve it? What would you do differently? What would you do differently next time? Was it worth the cost? And will you do it again? And definitely celebrate your success.
Okay, next, we are going to have the sites do a little brainstorming and discussion among themselves, and we're going to kind of use our community service project checklist. Our checklist, and I believe all the sites have copies for everybody, are just some of the things that we've pulled out of our presentation we've done tonight that kind of do our who, what, when, and where, making sure that we have everything done. So what our community service project tonight is going to be is doing a craft at our local women's shelter. So there are children there with their mothers, and so you're going to have about 10 youth ranging in age from 5 to 15. And the project that we're going to do is, it's Easter time, and we're going to do an Easter craft with them. We're going to make an Easter basket and have a little Easter celebration. So the first thing I would like the sites to do is talk about what supplies are needed and where these supplies are going to be purchased, or where are they going to be donated from, or how are they going to get them, and who is responsible for acquiring these supplies. So we'll take about 3 minutes and just have you guys brainstorm. You can use your flip charts or scratch paper, however it works best at your site. now that everybody's had a chance to do a little bit of brainstorming, Steve, could you please call on a site or two to have them give us some of their list and supplies and how they're going to attain them?
I sure will, Beth. Let's go to Elkhart County. We haven't talked up there to Lori yet tonight. Elkhart, did you have anything you'd like to share? Then we will move on to Dearborn County. Sherry, does your group have any good ideas on some supplies and items that might be needed for this project?
Yeah, we've got lots of great ideas. Go ahead. Since it was for women and Easter baskets for women, we thought of lotions and candles to make them feel, you know, comfortable. And candies, you always have to have candies.
Those are great suggestions. Very good. Let's try one more site, and let's see. How about Switzerland County? Ginger? Okay, Beth, not hearing anything there, so I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thanks. The next thing that we want to work on is just briefly discuss at your sites, and we're just going to take, a minute or so. How long do you think it's going to take you to plan this, to get your supplies? How much time are you needed for the youth to do this project or your 4-H group to do this project? And is it something that you need to publicize? And where might you publicize it? So I'll let you guys kind of talk about that. We'll do 2 minutes since we're going to add the two things together. So just so everybody knows, we need our timeline and how we're going to publicize. I'm going to go ahead and kind of come back, and I hope that you guys are having some good discussions. I have one other thing that I'd like the groups to talk about, so that's why we're going to kind of hurry along so we can stay on our time schedule tonight. A timetable for this project is going to depend on what you want to accomplish when you're there with those moms and those kids to make it a good experience for them, a positive experience. So, you may need a couple of days, total maybe 3 days by the time you take your time of contacting the shelter and setting up everything you need to do there, as well as any supplies for making the Easter baskets and the candies. Maybe you want to do some games with them and some interactive things. So, but allow yourself plenty of time to get everything that you need. Ways to publicize this. For this one, since it's a shelter that may or may not where they can have outside media come in or anything like that, what you could do is do a letter to the parents of the 4-Hers that are involved and let them know what's going on so they can be involved in the community project. And then after the fact, maybe do a little write-up as your 4-H group did this. And like I said, we do this here locally, and I know it's not something I would want everybody to know that we're going out there to do, but at the same time, we do reflect upon it after the fact, and that's just for the safety of the people out at the shelter. Next, we'd like the sites to take about a minute is to evaluate your things you think would be important to discuss in that evaluation process as to whether or not you would do this again. And if there was anything that you might needs that would need to be addressed or changed as you have been brainstorming or thinking about a project that you have done. So we'll take just a minute, and then Steve, that's all we have, so we'll turn it over to you then, and you can conclude.
Okay, thank you, Beth and Jane, and thank you to each of the sites for being with us this evening. We thank you so much for the time that you took out of your busy schedules. We know there's lots of things that you could be doing tonight, and we appreciate you choosing to be a part of Volunteer Indiana. I'd like to give a special thanks to our presenters this evening, Pam Hess, Phyllis Harris, Lana Frazier, Alice Alderson, Brian Howell, Beth Linhard, and Jane Richard. Appreciate each of you guys for all the work that you put into making sure this program went very smoothly. And for those of you that were able to join us, we hope that you've had a good overview of some of the things that are available through Volunteer Indiana for the year of 2010. And hopefully you can be able to take some of this information back and share it with your 4-H club members, involve them in some of these different type of service activities where we learn to be generous and decide what we're going to give and distinguish between service learning and some of our service projects, do a lot of different brainstorming on different service ideas, and then utilize the checklists and things that Beth and Jane talked about to actually plan a very effective service project for your club. We know that's been a long-standing tradition of what has happened in our 4-H clubs for 100+ years, and we're hoping that we can enhance that this year with some of the things that we've talked about through Volunteer Indiana. So as we conclude this evening, I would just encourage you to visit with your county 4-H educators to determine which of these projects or which of these lesson plans you might like to delve into perhaps a little bit more deeply. If you've not had a chance to look at the previous 3 years of Volunteer Indiana, would encourage you to do that as well. Maybe there's some things that you can do to create a county volunteer training program, or maybe there's opportunities for the junior leaders and or some of your 4-H clubs to take part in some of the lesson plans that we've been able to offer over the last 3 years. This will conclude our 4-year series of the Volunteer Indiana Project. It's been a fun time putting things together. The Volunteer Development Committee has done a lot of work to make these lesson plans available for you. They are out there and ready to use, and we would ask that you take advantage of them as long as you possibly can. If you have suggestions or ideas for future volunteer training programs for Indiana 4-H, we'd ask that you would get those to your educators, who in turn can get those to me or to some of our volunteer committee members, and we'll be able to take a look at those over the next couple of years as we move on to other opportunities for volunteer programs in Indiana. So with that, we'll conclude this evening. Trust that you each have a safe trip home and that you'll have a wonderful evening and good success in the upcoming 2010 4-H program year. Thank you very much and have a great evening.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Marion signing off.